I hope you will not entertain the idea, dear sirs, that Mustafa Saeed had become an obsession that was ever with me in my comings and goings. Sometimes months would pass without his crossing my mind. In any case, he had died by drowning or by suicide. God alone knows. Thousands of people die every day. Were we to pause and consider why each one of them died and how, what would happen to us, the living? The world goes on whether we choose for it to do so or in defiance of us. And I, like millions of mankind, walk and move, generally by force of habit, in a long caravan that ascends and descends, encamps, and then proceeds on its way. Life in this caravan is not altogether bad. You no doubt are aware of this. The going may be hard by day. The wilderness is sweeping out before us like shoreless seas. We pour with sweat, our throats are parched with thirst, and we reach the frontier beyond which we think we cannot go. Then the sun sets and the air grows cool, and millions of stars twinkle in the sky. We eat and drink, and the singer of the caravan breaks into song. Some of us pray in a group behind the sheikh. Others form ourselves into circles to dance and sing and clap. Above us, the sky is warm and compassionate. Sometimes we travel by night for as long as we have a mind to, and when the white thread is distinguished from the black, we say, when dawn breaks, the travelers are thankful that they have journeyed by night. If occasionally we are deceived by a mirage, and if our heads, feverish from the action of heat and thirst, sometimes bubble with ideas devoid of any basis of validity, no harm is done. The spectres of night dissolve with the dawn. The fever of day is cooled by the night breeze. Is there any alternative? Thus I used to spend 2 months a year in that small village at the bend of the Nile where the river, after flowing from south to north, suddenly turns almost at right angles and flows from west to east. It is wide and deep here, and in the middle of the water are little islands of green over which hover white birds. On both banks are thick plantations of date palms, with water wheels turning, and from time to time a water pump. The men are bare-chested, wearing long under trousers. They cut or sew, and when the steamer passes by them like a castle floating in the middle of the Nile, they stand up straight and turn to it for a while, and then go back to what they were doing. It passes this place at midday once a week, and there's still the vestige of the reflected shadows of the date palms on the water, disturbed by the waves set in motion by the steamer's engines. A raucous whistle blares out, which will no doubt be heard by my people as they sit drinking their midday coffee at home. From afar, the stopping place comes into view. A white platform with a line of sycamore trees. On both banks there's activity, people on donkeys and others on foot, while out from the bank opposite the landing stage little boats and sailing ships set forth. The steamer turns round itself so the engines won't be working against the current. A fairly large gathering of men and women is there to meet it. There is my father, those my cousins, my uncles and my cousins. They have tied their donkeys to the sycamore trees. No fog separates them from me this time, for I am coming from Khartoum only, after an absence of no more than 7 months. I see them with a matter-of-fact eye, their galabeas clean but unironed, their turbans wider than their galabeas, their mustaches ranging between long and short, between black and white. Some of them have beards, and those who have not grown beards are unshaven. Among their donkeys is a tall black one I have not seen before. They regard the steamer without interest as it casts anchor and the people crowd round where the passengers disembark. They are waiting for me outside and do not hasten forward to meet me. They shake hands hurriedly with me and my wife, but smother the child with kisses, taking it in turns to carry her, while the donkeys bear us off to the village. This is how it has been with me ever since I was a student at school, uninterrupted except for that long stay abroad I have already told you about. On the way to the village I ask them about the black donkey, and my father says, A Bedouin fellow cheated your uncle. He took from him the white donkey you know and 5 pounds as well. I didn't know which of my uncles had been cheated by the Bedouin till I heard the voice of my uncle Abdul Karim say, I swear I'll divorce if she isn't the most beautiful donkey in the whole place. She's more a thoroughbred mare than a donkey. If I could find somebody who'd pay me 30 pounds for her. My uncle Abdurrahman laughs and says, if she's a mare, she is a barren one. There's no use at all in a donkey that doesn't foal. I then asked about this year's date crop, though I knew the answer in advance. No use at all. They say it in one voice, and every year the answer is the same. And I realize that the situation isn't as they say. We passed by a red brick building on the Nile bank, half finished, and when I asked them about it, my uncle Abdul Mannan says, a hospital. They've been at it for a whole year and can't finish it. It's a hopeless government. I tell him that when I was here only 7 months ago, they hadn't even started building it. But this has no effect on my uncle Abdul Mannan, who says, all they're any good at is coming to us every 2 or 3 years with their hordes of people, their lorries, and their posters. Long live so-and-so, down with so-and-so. We were spared all this hula bulu in the days of the English. In fact, a group of people in an old lorry passes us shouting, long live the National Democratic Socialist Party. Are these the people who are called peasants in books? Had I told my grandfather that revolutions are made in his name, that governments are set up and brought down for his sake, he would have laughed. The idea appears actually incongruous in the same way as the life and death of Mustafa Saeed in such a place seems incredible. Mustafa Saeed used regularly to attend prayers in the mosque. Why did he exaggerate in the way he acted out that comic role? Had he come to this faraway village seeking peace of mind? Perhaps the answer lay in that rectangular room with the green windows. What do I expect? Do I expect to find him seated on a chair alone in the darkness? Or do I expect to find him strung up by the neck on a rope dangling from the ceiling? And the letter he has left me in an envelope sealed with red wax. When had he written it? I leave my wife, 2 sons, and all my worldly goods in your care, knowing that you will act honorably in every respect. My wife knows about all my property and is free to do with it as she pleases. I have confidence in her judgment. However, I would ask you to do this service for a man who did not have the good fortune to get to know you as he would have liked. To give my family your kind attention and to be a help, a counselor and an advisor to my 2 sons, and to do your best to spare them the pangs of wanderlust. Spare them the pangs of wanderlust and help them to have a normal upbringing and to take up worthwhile work. I leave you the key of my private room where you will perhaps find what you're looking for. I know you to be suffering from undue curiosity where I am concerned, something for which I can find no justification. Whatever my life has been, it contains no warning or lesson for anyone. Were it not for my realization that knowledge of my past by the village would have hindered my leading the life I had chosen for myself in their midst, there would have been no justification for secrecy. You are released from the pledge you took upon yourself that night and can talk as you please. If you are unable to resist the curiosity in yourself, then you will find in that room that has never before been entered by anyone but myself some scraps of paper, various fragments of writing and attempts at keeping diaries, and the like. I hope they will in any event help you while away such hours as you cannot find a better way of spending. I leave it to you to judge the proper time for giving my sons the key of the room and for helping them to understand the truth about me. It is important to me that they should know what sort of person their father was, if that is at all possible. I am not concerned that they should think well of me. To be thought well of is the last thing I'm after. But perhaps it would help them to know the truth about themselves at a time when such knowledge would not be dangerous. If they grow up imbued with the air of this village, its smells and colors and history, the faces of its inhabitants, and the memories of its floods and harvestings and sowings, then my life will acquire its true perspective as something meaningful alongside many other meanings of deeper significance. I don't know how they will think of me then. They may feel pity for me, or they may, in their imagination, transform me into a hero. That is not important. The important thing is that my life should not emerge from behind the unknown like an evil spirit and cause them harm. How I would have liked to stay on with them, watching them grow up before my eyes and at least constituting some justification for my existence. I do not know which of the two courses would be more selfish, to stay on or to depart. In any event, I have no choice, and perhaps you will realize what I mean if you cast your mind back to what I said to you that night. It's futile to deceive oneself. That distant call still rings in my ears. I thought that my life and marriage here would silence it, but perhaps I was created thus, or my fate was thus. Whatever may be the meaning of that, I don't know. Rationally, I know what is right, my attempt at living in this village with these happy people. But mysterious things in my soul and in my blood impel me towards faraway parts that loom up before me and cannot be ignored. How sad it would be if either or both of my sons grew up with the germ of this infection in them, the wanderlust. I charge you with the trust because I have glimpsed in you a likeness to your grandfather. I don't know when I shall go, my friend, but I sense that the hour of departure has drawn nigh. So goodbye. If Mustafa Saeed had chosen his end, then he had undertaken the most melodramatic act in the story of his life. If the other possibility was the right one, then nature had bestowed upon him the very end which he would have wanted for himself. Imagine the height of summer in the month of fateful July. The indifferent river has flooded as never before in 30 years. The darkness has fused all the elements of nature into one single neutral one, older than the river itself and more indifferent. In such manner, the end of this hero had to be. But was it really the end he was looking for? Perhaps he wanted it to happen in the north, the far north, on a stormy, icy night, under a starless sky, among a people to whom he did not matter. The end of conquering invaders. But as he said, they conspired against him, the jurors and the witnesses and the lawyers and the judges, to deprive him of it. The jurors, he said, saw before them a man who didn't want to defend himself, a man who had lost the desire for life. I hesitated that night when Jean sobbed into my ear, "Come with me, come with me." My life achieved completion that night, and there was no justification for staying on, but I hesitated, and at the critical moment I was afraid. I was hoping that the court would grant me what I had been incapable of accomplishing. It was as though, realizing what I was after, they decided that they would not grant me the final request I had of them. Even Colonel Hammond, who I thought wished me well. He mentioned my visit to them in Liverpool and what a good impression I had made on him. He said that he regarded himself as a liberal person with no prejudices, yet he was a realistic man and had seen that such a marriage would not work. He said, too, that his daughter Anne had fallen under the influence of Eastern philosophers at Oxford, and that she was hesitating between embracing Buddhism or Islam. He could not say for sure whether her suicide was due to some spiritual crisis or because of finding out that Mr. Mustafa Saeed had deceived her. Anne was his only daughter, and I had got to know her when she was not yet 20. I deceived her, seducing her by telling her that we would marry and that our marriage would be a bridge between north and south. And I turned to ashes the firebrand of curiosity in her green eyes. And yet her father stands up in court and says in a calm voice that he can't be sure. This is justice, the rules of the game, like the laws of combat and neutrality in war. This is cruelty that wears the mask of mercy. The long and short of it is they sentenced him to imprisonment. a mere 7 years, refusing to take the decision which he should have taken of his own free will. On coming out of prison, he wanders from place to place, from Paris to Copenhagen, to Delhi to Bangkok, as he tries to put off the decision. And after that, the end came in an obscure village on the Nile. Whether it was by chance or whether this curtain was lowered of his own free will, no one can say for certain. But I have not come here to think about Mustafa Saeed, for here, craning their necks in front of us, are the closely packed village houses made of mud and green bricks, while our donkeys press forward as their nostrils breathe in the scent of clover, fodder, and water. These houses are on the perimeter of the desert. It is as though some people in the past had wanted to settle here and had then washed their hands of it and quickly journeyed away. Here things begin and things end. A small girdle of cold, fresh breeze amidst the meridional heat of the desert comes from the direction of the river, like a half-truth amidst a world filled with lies. The voices of people, birds, and animals expire weakly on the ear like whispers, and the regular puttering of the water pump heightens the sensation of the impossible. And the river but for which there would have been no beginning and no end, flows northward, pays heed to nothing. A mountain may stand in its way, so it turns eastwards. It may happen upon a deep depression, so it turns westwards. But sooner or later, it settles down in its irrevocable journey towards the sea in the north.